Sit tight, let her get back for the sake of discussion. Sorry we kept y'all so long. I didn't notice, I would have waited on the meeting. This is yours. Whose is that? Somebody brought it from planning. Maybe John. No, no. Okay. Ms. Solis, you're back. We did get a motion second while you were out, so, discussion. I know there are some remarks council members want to share, so it's a good time to do it.
So I'll go ahead and start. I do want to read this one portion of the resolution so that everybody understands exactly what we are voting for. And it says, "The city council intends to consider University of Houston Victoria's proposal to purchase a portion of the Ben Wilson Street right-of-way at such a time that an agreement establishing further details of the transaction and ensuring that the transaction effectuates the promotion of a public purpose related to higher education is presented to council." So I intend to cast in favor of this resolution, but I want to make it clear that the word portion in that resolution does not bind me or what I consider anybody else on voting this on exactly what that design looks like. I still have some reservations about some of the design parameters of it, and I strongly want to create a collegiate atmosphere for University of Houston Victoria and promote safety for their students as they cross Ben Wilson, but I'm ever mindful of the use of that road by citizens that have paid for that road, and willing to keep moving the process forward, see if we can't find some good solution that's gonna work for both sides, that probably not either side is exactly gonna get what they want out of the deal, but would be fair and make it look like a campus over there.
I just want to say that my vote will be a vote to my consensus of, being in favor of the college expanding, but I also have reservations about the design. I would like to see it to go to 4 lanes versus the 2 lanes that we are being proposed. So that's why I'm going to vote the way I'm going to vote, okay?
Anyone else?
I'd like to say that I'm in favor of the Friesen Nichols report that shows it dropping down to a lane in each direction, together with a median in some parts, and basically a suicide center lane on the rest of that. We have those suicide center lanes all over town, depends on the speed limit. But I think that the university's plans are admirable. I think that it will help that part of town in developing that collegiate atmosphere. I also heard the university saying that they were dealing with some of the other infrastructure problems in that area of town, and I appreciate that and recognize that that goes hand in hand with this decision or acquisition for the part of the road. So my vote is certainly going to be in favor of this resolution.
Yeah, I'll speak. I agree. I'm in favor of the resolution as well. I do believe that giving the appearance of a collegiate atmosphere as a kind of a hallmark or hallway into the campus would be wonderful. I think that the projects that are planned and the building designs are phenomenal. I think it's what a boom for Victoria and the students. I do have some concerns in regards to what the official design will be, and I guess we're left to still consider that. But I certainly support you in that, and will vote yes to certainly continue to consider this along the way.
Ricky, I just want to make sure you're not left out. I don't know if you have any remarks. Okay. So, you know, if, a lot of people, it was, I guess, last April, we gave a consensus on a design. We did not vote. I want to clarify that. We then, at a meeting, I guess, a couple weeks later, we did vote on a resolution to move forward, similar to this resolution tonight. So we've never actually voted on the actual design of that. And as you can tell, this council's not in agreement on that. But we do not want to stop progress. There is no doubt there's support for UHV up here. That's not in question at all. But we certainly don't want to mislead Dr. Morgan or any of his staff that there is not, that consensus does not really exist at this time on that final design. So, and everybody's had a chance to share their opinion on it. I don't think, is there anything else? I think that's all we need to say. You guys, y'all comfortable with all that? Okay, I think we're clear on what's happening, so. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you. E, what's next?
City manager report.
City manager report.
Yes, Dana, library director, will be the first one to report on her annual report for the library and tell you what's going on.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Thanks for being patient, waiting on us. Okay, we'll talk soon. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council. Tonight, I am going to be presenting an overview of library achievements from the past 5 years and an explanation of our updated strategic plan for the next 5 years. And I also wanted to let you know that a complete review of the last 5 years has been handed out at your places tonight, and it's available on the library's website. So if you or any constituents want to view the complete plan, it's available there. So in 2011, we set 5 major priorities for the library. They were a focus on early literacy for children under age 5, information fluency to train others in use of technology, cultural awareness to provide programs and displays that represent a variety of the cultures of our community, lifelong learning to help individuals to continue to learn new skills, and reading, viewing, and listening for pleasure, which provides access to popular materials for all ages. In implementing that 5-year plan, we had some major accomplishments. One is community partnerships. The goal when we started out in 2011 was to develop and work with 2 to 3 community organizations per year. By the end of our 5 years, we were regularly working with 10 to 15 different community organizations each year. Number 2 was our electronic book service, eBooks. When we started our strategic plan in 2011, we had about 2,000 electronic books available to check out through our website. Today, we have close to 20,000 items and are averaging about 1,500 checkouts per month. A third accomplishment was the access to technology for all ages. Our main focus in 2011 was teaching adults to use desktop computers. In 2017, we still have desktop computers with internet access in our building, but we've added Wi-Fi, laptops that can be checked out for use in the building, robotics programming, and just recently a 3D printer, with plans to continue to expand and improve access to technology for our community. And the fourth one is community connection space. We've made many building improvements since 2011, and those are listed in the packet that I handed out. Some examples of that include that we completely renovated our public restroom spaces. We did exterior lighting improvements to our building. We added children's shelving and seating areas to make our building more inviting and welcoming. We also had some setbacks that we dealt with over the last 5 years.
That picture.
The major areas we had to overcome included some instability in staffing created by retirements, general attrition, and reorganization of library jobs and departments so that we were more effectively able to meet our goals. In flexibility of space, our needs have changed a lot in 5 years, and they continue to. We are working hard to make our building work for us. We have made major changes to improve access to technology. That was a big hurdle in a building that was built in 1975. And we wanted to create both common community spaces for people to work together, meet together, and quiet spaces for individual learning, and also to have room for large groups that attend our meetings and our family programs. The third one is that pace of technological change. It's always keeping us on our toes. Community needs for access to technology, internet, Wi-Fi, and tools such as 3D printing, robotics, scanners. It's always changing. We work hard to stay knowledgeable about current trends and to train our staff to assist our users with a variety of tasks. But it is always that change, always a moving target. We also have high user expectations. We work really hard in providing excellent customer service and want to ensure that services and programs are of high quality. It is through the development of our strategic goals and their implementation that we were able to focus on doing a few things well, even though we'd love to provide more, but the plan has really provided some of that structure for us. Now, I want to highlight some of the areas where we are successfully or have successfully met our strategic goals during the last 5 years. Family programming, and specifically programs for children under age 5, are extremely popular. Each week we hold 6 different programs for babies, toddlers, preschoolers, and their caregivers. From 2011 to 2016, we had a 136% increase in attendance at these events. In 2011, we had a little over 5,000 children and parents attending story times. And by 2016, this had increased to over 12,000 children and parents attending annually. Another major program that we focused on was increasing the number of preschoolers who participated in our summer reading program. In 2011, we had 140 children under age 5 who completed our program. And by 2016, we had almost 500 children complete our program, including local daycares and summer camp programs. In the area of helping people gain access to technology and learn how to use it, we saw a big jump in attendance of our computer classes. From a monthly attendance of approximately 45 to 50 participants to an average of about 245 participants per month in 2016. Now, we accomplished this in a couple of ways. We had our partnership with Workforce of the Golden Crescent, and we expanded our technology program from an adult focus to a focus on all ages. We also were able to develop a robotics program, and we received a grant from the Texas State Library in order to do that. Our priority of celebrating diversity was incorporated into library displays by bringing in a variety of displays from various community groups, such as the Czech Heritage Society, to book displays, Black History Month, or partnering with the Nave Museum for Dia de los Muertos. And for our lifelong learning priority, we focused on partnerships with other community organizations. We were part of approximately 30 different programs in 2016, including the Dr. Seuss STEAM Fest with the Children's Discovery Museum, the Victoria Business and Education Youth Leadership Conference, and the Freedom Writers Readout with Victoria College, just to name a few. The priority of Stimulate Imagination helps us focus on providing a variety of popular materials for all library users in our community. Our community continues to value our physical collections, such as adult fiction and bestsellers, our large DVD collection and music, and has also shown support of our electronic book collections. We experienced a 34% increase in usage of these adult collections between 2011 and 2016. We checked out 152,000 adult fiction books, electronic books, DVDs, and music CDs in 2011, and increased that to 204,000 by 2016. Last summer, we reviewed and updated our 2011 plan, and we had the help of a community committee, our library advisory board, VPL staff, and our Friends Board to develop a new 5-year plan. This plan went into place on January 1st of this year, and I wanted to give you just an overview of our new plan. There is some overlap with our 2011 plan and also a couple of changes. So our updated vision is that Victoria Public Library encourages a love of reading and commitment to literacy, provides materials and services that satisfy curiosity and stimulate imagination, develops programs that encourage the expression of creativity, and utilizes technology to support collaboration. So priority 1 is Create Young Readers, which is a continuation from the 2011 plan with a focus on reading, writing, and listening skills to prepare our youngest users to enter school. Priority 2 is Express Creativity, create and share content. Now, this is a new priority for us. The goal is that residents will have collaborative experiences. We're calling them collaborative experiences to learn new skills and opportunities to share hobbies and interests with technology and workspace to support these endeavors. The priority will support our technology programs, such as robotics or coding programs for kids, or a more interactive and large-scale program, such as our annual Maker Fest, which we held last summer, and we're going to hold that again this next summer. Priority 3 is Satisfy Curiosity, which is a continuation from our previous plan. A couple of objectives that we will be focusing on are looking at ways to make sure that our internet access and speed is of sufficient quality to meet the needs of our users. And we will also focus on our experiential learning programs and signature events. Our signature events for 2017 are going to include Spring Break Week, Summer Reading, Maker Fest, and Star Wars Reads. And then priority 4 is Stimulate Imagination. Our objectives will focus on continuing to promote and support a strong print collection for our adult users and children, and also continue to develop and promote our electronic book collection available through our website to our community. In addition to the strategic plan document I left at your place, there's also a newsletter that is for the next month and lists all of our events. Both of these documents are available through our website. And that concludes my update for the library. And if you have any questions, certainly able to answer those now.
You have a Facebook page, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I'm sorry, I should know that, and I probably have seen it, I just forgot. That's good.
On the spring break that you have, all the different dates and the activities, how early can someone call you and register for these classes?
On those are, yes, it is open now.
Okay,
So you can go ahead and register now
okay.
for those.
And this, what it hand out, is it on the website so that way
Yes.
people know what the, being offered every day for during spring break?
Yes, we have our newsletter available through our website and also an events calendar on that website that you can look at
Okay.
and see what's available.
Okay. Thank you.
So an impressive list of events.
Yes.
Nice, okay.
Okay, thank
Counsel?
you.
Thank you.
Good job. So the second report is Chief Tanner Drake. He's getting up. So he's going to talk about 2016 in the fire department.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Ms. Garrett. It's always a pleasure to be in front of you, get to talk a little bit about the fire department. some of the things that we saw and experienced in 2016. But I want to start by acknowledging my two assistant chiefs. I don't get to acknowledge them publicly very much. And they're kind of the backbone of our organization, do a wonderful job. And that's Assistant Fire Chief Shannon Martin, who's over our fire operations. And Assistant Chief Tracy Fox, who's over our EMS division. They both do a wonderful job, and I appreciate them being here tonight. So we're going to start, and I'll a lot of the data, I'm not going to go into great detail, but I did provide each of you a copy. And certainly, if you ever want any additional information about things that we're, ways we're holding ourselves accountable, whatnot, we're always available. But I want to start with our mission and vision, because those are very dear to us, and we do take those very seriously. These are things that we talk to our employees about all the time. And in particular, on the very back of the spreadsheet, or the annual report, is our core values, and that's professionalism, leadership, accountability, teamwork, and employee well-being. And we use those in pretty much all communications with our organization in an effort to guide their decision-making as well. Kind of going through my chart here, just showing you an updated organizational chart, because right at the end of 2015, start of 2016, Assistant Fire Chief Shannon Martin came on board, and we were able to split our division, our organization, into a fire and EMS, and that's kind of the overview of the organizational chart. As we look at into 2016 and our calls for service, that we had the most calls for service in our history, 10,144, which was up about 300 calls from the previous year, which isn't a whole lot. In relative numbers, that's just a modest 3.5% increase. But if we look back over the last 5 years, we continue to increase at 3 to 5 to 7% each year, which certainly it increases our response out in the community. Our EMS calls increase just very incrementally, and our fire calls increased by 18%. The fire calls in particular, if you look across the way we measure it, we saw a 46% increase in vehicle fires and a 24% increase in grass, trash, and outside rubbish fires. We're also starting to see a lot of increases in good intent calls. And so people may often wonder, why would we see an increase in good intent calls? And it's everybody's got a cell phone. And so they see things and they call and they report it. And they don't often know what it is they're seeing or where it's even at, and we go out and investigate that. So we are starting to see a little uptick in that, those call types from year to year. Often try to break out our calls in the county and what that represents. And we're still seeing a steady overall from year to year, 20% of our call volume is in the county. And this year was no different, with 20.2% of calls for service into the county. On the fire and EMS side, kind of combined, one of our accomplishments this year was the Mission Lifeline. We achieved the gold recognition, which at this point is the highest recognition. And that's the way that we take care of our patients that are experiencing chest pain. We also acquired a FLIR drone, which we don't physically have just yet, from the 100 Club. We're really excited about what kind of doors that can open for us. Just kind of bouncing down through their medical vending machines. You guys remember a little bit about that. We bought those at the end of last year, and I've got a slide here to show you that we are seeing a little bit of medical supply savings. Roughly over $49,000 in grants. Our admin was moved over to Airline. Fire Marshal's office moved out to Station 5, and our training division was moved to Station 1. And then also we were able to purchase, or you guys were able to purchase, a future land for a future fire station number 5 at some time in the future. Our Fire Marshal's office, they have seen a significant increase, and especially as you look at the annual report that I provided, you'll see some of the data of increases that they've had. They completed over 2,500 building inspections, and those building inspections can be anywhere from 15 or 20 minutes to an hour, hour and a half. So that's not a solid number. They also saw an uptick in fire investigations by 75%. In January alone, they've already investigated within 5 of what they did last year. January has just been awful, and so they've really had their hands full. They also were able to do 2 fire prevention shows out at the VISD Performing Arts Center, and to an estimated 8,000 students, which is always a great program. The picture up there in the right was the one they did this year. They're very involved in the public outreach through the Shattered Dreams National Night Out Fire Prevention Poster Program. Smoke alarm installations have done over 190. If y'all remember, we received a grant for $7,500 from State Farm. And matter of fact, we just were awarded that grant again, that we'll be getting that here in the next 2 weeks. And then one of their benchmarks is to have all fire code violations corrected within 90 days. 90% of the time, they're actually able to achieve that 97% of the time. Just an overview of the performance goals and response goals for the operations division. Year over year, 2014, 2015, 2016, that's a breakdown of our actual calls for service. And then also on the right, again, try to show that from a county perspective as well. I know it's important for y'all to see that and understand what we're doing by contract in the county.
Tanner, real quick, let me interrupt you. Can you go back a slide? So 20.2% calls were outside the city limits.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that your department does respond countywide, in effect, a county department. And then the county does reimburse your total budget somewhat. Charmel, you know about roughly what percent that is of his budget?
A little over 12.
A little over 12% of your budget, so. Okay, I mean, I say that because I'm just using this avenue to educate the public more that they are part of your department and you do respond out there and it's critical, so,
Yeah,
thank you.
We cover roughly 900 square miles, and that can be a real challenge at times. Kind of a breakdown. Some of this I'll just zip through. That obviously there's things you can look at if you have time, but just responses by station year over year for 2014, 2015, 2016. Some of the benchmarks that we look at each year, trying to ensure that we get out of the stations quickly. We get all of our units on scene quickly, and that's the full alarm. We want to hit those key benchmarks that we've established. Our Medikit unit availability and our fire availability. Just to kind of clarify what that means is we want to be able to turn our units around very quickly. We don't have really we're not blessed with a lot of other resources at our disposal, so it's very important that we get our ambulances back in service very quickly. We cut fire engines and apparatus loose as soon as we possibly can, so that we're available for any other call that might happen in the community. And then the very far right benchmark is really an incredible tribute to the job that our folks are doing out there on fire calls. And our property saved in the city is our goal is to be above 95%. We were 99% for 2016. That does not take into account a fire we had in January. But that's a real tribute to the guys and the ladies and how hard they work out there when they get on those particular calls. Again, just another chart that shows what percent of the time we're hitting our 5-minute goal in each one of the fire stations districts. I threw this in there. It's a little bit. There's a lot to it, but I want to show what my point in showing you this is that the colored shades are the response districts. The polygons that you see within each one of those districts is a 1.5 mile radius around the station that's a drivable distance. And you can see there's quite a bit of areas in the city that we don't have that 1.5 miles, which means we do extend beyond a 5-minute response time at times. And we're Station 6, if we looked at Station 6's numbers in particular, a lot of their calls are down Navarro. And if you try to get up and down Navarro at certain times of the day, it's a real challenge. And it's a real challenge for them too. But we want them to understand that we want them to get there as soon as possible, but not at the expense of driving like crazy and being unsafe. And so our goals are always to try to get out of the station quicker. Don't mess around. That alarm comes in, get out of the station and get rolling. So anyway, I just want to show that as a visual perspective. And when we look in the MS side, the cardiac critical care program, I won't go into all these, but what I want you to see in these is that in cardiac care, trauma, and stroke care, we hold ourselves to pretty high standards in a lot of different areas. And some of those we're doing exceptionally and doing a really good job. And some of those are areas that we will work to continue to improve. But if we don't have goals, then we don't know where to improve. We don't know what what additional equipment we need, additional training, and those things. So we continue to do really well on the medical side, and we see some really great investments in what we're doing. And that's also a great collaboration with our hospitals. DTAR and Citizens both do a wonderful job and work with us very well. And so none of these goals are possible without us having great relationships with them. We bought vending machines last year, and one of our goals was that to kind of measure and see what we thought the effectiveness of that would be. And we were able to determine in the first quarter, since we had those machines, we saw about a $4,800 savings, which if we equated that out, that would be a little bit over $19,000. We don't think that's going to hold all the way through because it's very cyclical in how we buy supplies. But I guess more than anything, just want you to know that some of the devices and technology and improvements we're buying, we do see some improvements and some improved efficiencies. So we'll continue to monitor those and make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck. Last slide here, just again, we have some great volunteer groups that work for us and with us, and we're very proud of our relationship with each one of them, starting with our fire corps. They come out to any rehab that we need and do a great job. They do our new hire testing, and they'll be doing that for us this Friday as we do a new hire testing process. They come out and provide rehab to those folks. Our chaplains, 2016 was a very challenging year in some very tragic events, and having that great chaplain support for our folks is just awesome. And Mike Singenster in particular, we recognized him at our annual banquet for his 15 years of dedicated service. And then our wonderful support from our medical director, Dr. John McNeil, as he's been with our organization for many years and really helps us to think outside the box and supports us in doing so. That's a quick overview.
Any questions, anyone? Well, thank you, Tanner. Chief, I can just say that the morale in your department shows, and it's appreciated.
Oh, thank you.
Lots of good leadership there and lots of good folks.
Thank y'all.
So Chief Craig, are you doing this next report, or is Chief Ray?
I got it.
Chief Ray's shaking his head behind you there, so you're gonna do the racial profiling first?
That'll be the first one. And we did put a copy of that on your desk. So Mayor and members of City Council, before you is the 2016 Partial Exemption Racial Profiling Report. This is the partial exemption report that is submitted to Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. The report is required by law to be presented by the governing body, to the governing body by each law enforcement agency on or before March 1st of each year. This report is a compilation of data that was gathered as a result of motor vehicle traffic stops made by officers of the Victoria Police Department. For these purposes, a motor vehicle stop means an occasion in which a peace officer stops a motor vehicle for alleged violation of a law or ordinance. Officers capture the required information when those stops result in a citation, an arrest, or both. And I now would refer you to that one document that I put on there. It's entitled 2016 Partial Exemption Racial Profile and Reporting Tier 1. And it basically breaks down statistically the number of traffic stops resulting in citations, arrest, or both, and then a race or ethnicity breakdown of those traffic stops. Again, I want to stress this is not every traffic stop, but only those resulting in an arrest, citation, or both. And then you could see the information that's preceded in the report. And then it goes into whether or not race or ethnicity was known prior to the stop, and then whether or not a search was conducted, and was a search consented. This is a Tier 1 partial exemption report. There's 3 types of reports that police departments are required to do. One is an exempt report, which just means that you're a police agency as defined by the state of Texas. However, you don't pull vehicles over. So if a department never makes a traffic stop, they would file that report. Because of the fact that the Victoria Police Department has audio and visual in their police vehicles, we qualify to do this partial exemption report, which is what's in front of you right now. The last is a full reporting policy, and that's a police department, an agency that does traffic stops. However, they don't have audio or visual, so they would have to do a full report, which is much more lengthy in detail. We are able to do this partial exemption report because we do collect that data on traffic stops, and we do collect that information on audio and visual. And that's really about it when it comes to that report. I'm certainly available to answer any questions if you have any.
Don't see anybody, so you want to move right into your annual crime report?
And now I'd like to refer you to this document that's in front of you that's entitled 2016 Annual Crime Report. Looks like this document. And there's another magazine-looking report that's next. But I would like to refer you to that. That's the first one I'm going to go over. And this report specifically depicts Class 1 crimes. As you can see, if you look on page 2, the first, you'll see a couple charts. Of note, our Class 1 crimes for 2016 went up 6% over the previous year. Class 1 crimes are all your violent crimes, murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assaults, burglary, theft, and motor vehicle theft. Just below that, you see a graph that depicts total violent crime. That was down 277 incidents compared to 309 the year before. However, our real challenge continues to be in the area of property crimes, specifically an increase in burglaries citywide and theft, which includes motor vehicle burglaries. So we're having some challenges when it comes to those 2 areas. We continue to educate the public on proactive measures to not become a victim, because I would say 30, 40, 50% of these could be accomplished by just locking your car door and locking your house. It's really an interesting statistic to know how many folks do not do that. So we continue to push that message, how important that really is. And we've also been able to actually make several good key arrests of late. One in particular will probably clear about 85 of those burglaries. So one group, so we're pretty pleased that we're
How
seeing
many?
about 85.
85, wow.
So, and we're optimistic that we can get some more on that. So,
Are they, is something like that typically local? Or is
yes.
it- Okay.
Page 3, just again, it gives some historical perspective on Class 1 crimes. It talks about the crime rate for Class 1 crimes per 100,000 residents. And then it gives you a depiction of total Class 2 crimes. Now, Class 2 crimes also, what drives those are arrests. So if you see DWI, that's considered a crime, but it also depicts the total number of arrests. Page 4, changes of prior years concerning Class 1 and Class 2 crimes, arrests, and then depicts adult arrests. Any questions about the annual crime report?
Nope.
And lastly, I would like to refer you to the very nicely done magazine cover. I want to thank Jennifer Sodelia for helping us out, putting that together, and our printing folks that do a great job of putting all that together to present. And this one, I'll go through. If you open up just the first page, you see, very handsome chief of police and the newcomer assistant chief sitting there. But really, what I try to do with this is this is really for our employees to try to highlight the good work that they do each and every day. Very dedicated group of individuals. And so some of the theme of this particular report is to really take a look at our employees and acknowledge the work that they do. If you go to the next page, you'll see the police command staff, and then a real quick 2016-27, a really down and dirty version of a police department's budget. And then we get into, over the last year, we had 3 retirees. And then we certainly have a lot more new faces of the Victoria Police Department, as you can see. One of the things, again, that I'm really proud of is how engaged our officers are with the community. And we enjoy a lot of support from the community, and we invest in that every day. And I think that that's incredibly important for a police department. And our employees, as you can see through these next couple of pictures, are very engaged and very supportive of that effort. We have a new chaplain group. I'm going to be introducing them to you in a more formalized manner end of March when we do an installation of our newest group. But we finished the academy, and we're just waiting logistically for a few other things before we move forward with the program. But we're real excited about that. We continue to have a great civilian police academy that provides us alumni association that does an incredible amount of work for us each and every year. And then we talk about now at the 2016 awards for excellence in policing, and so we identify some individuals that have received awards, and there's a lot, and I think I just want to mention that is we didn't even put everything in here, and we still had a lot of pictures of folks that have done some outstanding work, in service of the community. And then I'm at the page now where it talks about the crime data, and this is just a repeat of what I've given you in the annual crime report in a little bit different version in the magazine. And again, it talks about the crime data. We did see some decrease in total. I'm on the last page where it says crime data calls for service. We did see a decrease in total overall calls for service. We saw an increase, however, in our officers handling emergency calls for service. So they spent more time handling more emergent type of calls than they did in the previous year, which I believe also accounted for the increase in patrol response time to emergency calls for service. As you see, that was up a little bit. I will still say that 5.88 minutes and 7.59 minutes is still very, very good benchmark to hit for a police department our size in terms of average response time to emergency calls. But we are experiencing, like I said, an increase of handling a larger majority of emergency type of calls. So we're keeping us busy a little bit longer than we have had seen in previous years. Again, total violent crimes are down. Property crimes are up, and that was the driver that shot us up to a 6% increase over the year. And then the last several pictures are just photos of our employees who, like I said, each and every day go out there and serve this public and serve our community in a very admirable way. And that's all I really had on my couple reports. Stand ready to answer any questions you might have.
Great report.
That-
Very nice. Thank you.
Do for us. We appreciate
you.
it.
So the next 2 presentations, Andrew Jacob from Finance will talk about the municipal court roundup, warrant roundup, I guess. So if any of us have warrants outstanding. You're going to tell us?
I checked the system, it works.
We're good?
Mayor, members of council, I'm pleased to give you an update tonight on the Great Texas Warrant Roundup. This is the 11th year for this annual statewide event. It is a note that the city has been doing warrant roundups for probably the last 20-plus years. But we are joining in the statewide effort again this year. The city mailed out notices in early February to approximately 2,300 individuals. Our collection agency has also mailed out notices to individuals as well to try to get the information out. We thought that the digital billboard advertising that we started last year was a good effort, so we've continued that. That started running at the end of January and will effectively run through the month of February. Sorry, I just missed the dates. The actual event officially begins this Saturday, which is February 25th, and runs through Sunday, March 5th. That's the actual period that the arrests can begin. I want to show, if James, I guess he has it queued up, I'll show just a brief video that the communications office has prepared this year.
The Victoria Police Department is arresting those with active warrants. Do you have a warrant out for your arrest? Do you have any unpaid traffic tickets? Go to covcourt.com and simply fill out your name and date of birth to find out. If you do have a traffic ticket, pay it online right there at covcourt.com or go to the municipal court located at 107 West Juan Lynn Street. Again, go to covcourt.com to find out if you have a warrant out for your arrest.
Thank you. And one of the things that's changed this year, if you remember the long web link that we used to have for our online payments, we came up with that covcourt.com. We're really trying to push that out to the public to where we can maybe generate some more online traffic and hopefully relieve some of the staff with the calls there. So a lot of thanks to Josh Garrett specifically on that video. And really the purpose of that is it's not specific to the dates, so they can actually fill that in through the year and hopefully kind of continue to get that message out to folks of where they can go for some of the online services. And in the audience, I know Sherry and Tiffany are both here, so certainly want to appreciate, send them thanks for all the work that them and their staff do, especially as we get into the kind of the full gear of Roundup. So be happy
They're
to-
busy all the time. They're fixing to get really busy next week.
Exactly, and they're down one body right now, so it's even compounding matters. So be happy to address any questions you may have.
Andrew, I have one. Is there like
Yes.
a expected percentage of warrants that you'll resolve? You don't do them all. You can't find everybody. You can't chase
I
them.
think probably 25% is probably going to be a safe
Really?
amount based on, and that's probably off the top of my head, but I know basically what was cleared last year and approximately how many were mailed out. So I'm kind of hoping that basically with the video and some continued efforts, we can maybe stretch that out and do it more through the year and not just over this,
Right.
month and a half effort.
Okay, I hope people take advantage of this, come in and take care of it.
And I did check the web link. You can look up and it'll tell you. And luckily, my results were negative.
And you. I hope so. Chief's right behind you.
I think he has handcuffs too.
Oh, gosh.
Easy now.
Thank
So
you.
Andrew, you want to move right into the next update on the other post-employment?
Yes, this is just a quick recap on the other post-employment benefits trust that the city created. As you'll remember, we came to you in April of 2015 with the plan to create this OPEB trust. The plan basically called for an initial investment of $1 million, which was made in November of 2015. We have since contributed an additional $200,000 in both January of 16 and November of 2016. So we've already made our 2017 annual contribution. We've been working, the trust has been in place for about a year now, a little over a year. And we felt it was a good time to probably come back, have John Robinson with PFM, who's administers our trust, and kind of give you an update on the trust itself. You've been receiving quarterly investment reports on the trust for probably roughly a year, so hopefully he can address the trust, the reports as a whole, and then I'll address any questions that you may have at the end. So with that, John?
Good evening. As Andrew stated, I'm John Robinson from PFM Asset Management, and it's a pleasure to be before you tonight. I wanted to kind of give you, as Andrew stated, a little bit of a overview, a summary of the OPEB Trust and what's happened since the initial investment back in 2015. But first, I want to give you a little bit of background about the report that you're looking at. We do provide a quarterly report to the investment committee that's around 45 pages. So this is a really, real summary of the report that we go over more in detail about what's happening in the market, also the managers that we have in the portfolio, and also performance too. Also, this report is generated roughly 45 to 60 days after the market closes at the end of the quarter. And that's so we can reconcile numbers, receive all the right information from the managers that we have out there. So some of the market information, even though it's a recap, it's kind of stale. So we try to mix between what's happened in the past and what's happening now in the marketplace too. So we have some handouts, but y'all, so if you look on the screen, the first just goes to a recap of 2016. As plenty of you know, the 2016 was an interesting year as far as the market. The markets performed very, very well. We did have some low points. We did have some significant events back in 2016. We had Brexit. We also had the election too, which took a little bit of a roller coaster. So our job as investment managers is to preserve capital and be conservative. So at the end of halfway through the year, we decided to take a little bit of a more defensive stance on the portfolio, especially not knowing what was the outcome was going to happen in Brexit or was going to happen in the election too. Since then, we know the market has performed very, very well, but it still have some areas where there's a concern for what direction we're going to go in, especially when it comes down to trade and international things that's going on. Domestically, we've done very, very well. The stock market's at an all-new high, and that continues to take us up there. Some of the different strategies have done very well. Small cap, which are smaller companies that are out there, tend to do very well because they're really not relying on what's happening overseas for their performance and things like that. So as you see, as we continue to go through this, you'll see more of a defensive kind of slant to the portfolio. And that's just because I think that's our job, is to protect the dollars that are out there. Yes, yeah, you're hiring us to go and manage the money, but our job is not always to get every dollar, if it's going to put a lot more risk to the portfolio from that standpoint. So if we, those are the next couple slides kind of go through that. Emerging markets and non-U.S. markets, interesting, performed well last year. And that's because we haven't figured it out from a fundamental standpoint. Because if you're going through and having to retrade, especially with Brexit coming up with new trade agreements and everything else, those markets would tend to kind of sell off. But they perform very well in the marketplace. Because of that, in June, we decided to go a little bit short on the international and put a little bit more on domestic side of things. So that was our little defensive swing, and to get out in front of it a little bit more. Needless to say, from that standpoint, those markets still did well. But from our standpoint, being conservative in the portfolio, that's what you want us to do from that standpoint, and not take as much more risk. So if you look at the portfolio summary, right now, Andrew kind of stated, right now you're about $1.5 million. For the quarter, the trust returned approximately negative 0.8%, where our benchmark was 0.2. And that's just because, like I stated before, we took more of a defensive stance on things. But if you look at it from a year-over-year basis, you return 6.3% for the year versus the benchmark of 7.1%. And as we go through the presentation, we'll see some of the areas where we went a little bit more defensive that kind of help underperform a little bit from that standpoint. This next slide just gives you an idea of some of the asset classes that we have there, from domestic equity to international equity to real estate, also to fixed income. We do not have any alternative investments in the portfolio is a very traditional portfolio from that standpoint. It's a good mix of mutual funds and also active managers. And that's the way we manage our portfolios. There's no use of paying an active manager a lot of additional money if they're going to just give you a stock market return from that standpoint. And also have to remember that from a return standpoint, we're looking at this trust over a long period of time too. So you're going to have market cycles that's going to go up or come down, but we're still, the plan that we put forward a couple of years ago, we're still on track for that from that standpoint, from a return standpoint. This just gives you a further breakdown of the asset allocation that the investment committee voted on some of the risk parameters as far as what areas we can go into and sort of limits. So you have a 60-40 portfolio, which is 60% equity, 40% fixed income, and we have some ranges that we can move in and out of those things. And that's what we call tactical asset allocation, where we see their opportunities. We're a fundamental manager, but also at the same time, you're paying us to find relative value in different areas of the marketplace where we may see where something's undervalued or areas where they may be overvalued where we want to get out of. And that's where it comes to our conservative type of asset management style from that standpoint. This is a chart that we put out there to really kind of give you an idea of what's going on in the portfolio, where are some of the changes. If you look through the different charts, I just don't have it here, so I apologize, where it just goes through different areas where we're different from the benchmark, or how we're returning, or what contribution of managers have to the portfolio, or what contribution do we have from an asset allocation standpoint. So we go through that with the committee every quarter to kind of give us some information, how we're managing the portfolio, what we think about some managers, what we think about some sectors, and also the economy too. So it gives us an opportunity to really talk about it and what direction we want to go in the future, and just tell them what we're doing so they can understand how we're managing the portfolio and not just trying to match the benchmark, because you want us to outperform the benchmark from that standpoint. The next slide is just a little bit of our market outlook. We're bullish on the U.S. domestic marketplace from that standpoint. We still think there's some weaknesses in the emerging markets, even though it's performed very, very well. The downside of things is that we still think there's some political uncertainty from an overseas standpoint, and also from what's going to happen with trade agreements and everything else. So we still think the Fed's going to take some action. This is something that for the past 3 or 4 years, if they're going to do something, they're going to do something. They finally did made change last year in December, but year before that it was December. There's still a high probability that they're going to end up raising rates in March. We started out the year and said, well, there's going to be four rate increases. That was out there. I think we're down to 2 now. So it's just still a wait and see, and that's what's really affected the fixed income market. The fixed income market may be coming to the end of its, per se, bull run now, because of if we're going to get some more increasing in the Fed interest rates and everything else from that standpoint. And basically, this report just gives you a little bit of overview of what's going on in the marketplace and what we see forward. The next slide is our heat map, what we call it, and it just gives you a projection what we looked at last year and what we think this year in different sectors. If you look here, just take a couple of them. You'll see from last year, and then this year, we're really optimistic about some of the domestic equity sectors that's out there too. We've went back a little bit on some of the real estate sectors that we have out there. So it just gives you, a good idea of what we're looking at and how we're going to manage the portfolio in the future. And of course, this comes out on a quarterly basis, so it does change from that standpoint. But just to start off from a December standpoint, and actually this has changed since now we're in February, from that standpoint. But it gives you a good basis of what we're thinking, and we provide this to your investment committee every quarter, and we do get some great questions about why is it changing and what I'm thinking. So it's actually served its purpose from that standpoint. And so that's kind of just a little bit of a overview of what we do and how the portfolios performed over the past year. Like I said, it's 636 versus a benchmark of 7%. 710. We're still looking at, if you look at the plan we put forward, we're around a 7% area. So looking at ups and lows and how we're going, and it's a long-term game. And really, when you're out there judging managers and judging what you're doing, you have to take a business cycle into it, 3 to 5 years, and where you're gonna end up in 8 years, and put the plan together and how you're gonna start paying out of that over that period of time. Any questions?
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Remind everybody why we have this fund.
Yes, and before I forget, because I didn't mention it a while ago, but John mentioned a couple times, we do have an internal OPEB advisory board. That's myself, Cheryl, Martha, Johnny, and O.C. Garza. So that's when he was talking about the committee. We do meet on a quarterly basis, and there is a lot of good discussion that comes out of there. But yes, the trust itself is basically to hopefully alleviate the retirement benefits on an ongoing basis. And really, John alluded to the plan. Really, there was 3 options at the time, kind of a 6.5 on the low side, 7.5, and 8.5% being on the high side. So we said, okay, 7.5, I think we're comfortable. And that's what, he feels like we're still on course for that. Essentially, we're putting money into that, the initial investment, and then 9 years of the $200,000. And then at some point, the trust itself will be making all of the payments right out of the trust itself. And the earnings will just continue to compound.
Yeah, we determined our gap on our unfunded liability for the retiree health benefits. So, and that's why we set the trust up, so we'll be able to alleviate that gap.
Yes.
Hence the name, Other Post-Employment
Yes.
Benefits.
Yeah, just
So,
another
I just-
acronym for.
well, I mean, I know you guys are handling it. I always have to say, though, I'm very proud that we're meeting our obligations and taking this seriously, and I think that is very noteworthy. So it's good to see this. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is just to save your money. We certainly have a lot of projects and needs, but we have obligations that we have to meet. And I know, just from my reading and stuff around the country, not all municipalities can say that. So I hope everyone appreciates this, including our citizens, and I think they do. So. Okay. Are you through with your city
I
manager
am, and
reports?
then we're just down to the work session that we'll do in,
And we have a work session upstairs.
Yeah.
I just thank you for the reports that were done, and, I said the fire department, great morale, that goes for all you guys, the police department, the library, it's always proud of what y'all do. So with that, we're adjourned.